It is official. At the end of the season, David Moyes and West Ham will part ways. After what many consider a very successful period for West Ham, I'm going to go into why they've decided to go with a new manager in Julen Lopetegui. But first of all, let's jump into West Ham, what's happened with them in the last few seasons, and what has led up to the dismissal of David Moyes. I know it's one which many football fans are questioning. Is this the right decision? Is it one which West Ham will end up regretting? Let me know in the comments if you're a football fan or if you are a West Ham fan. I'm genuinely very interested to hear what your thoughts on this change are. It's really easy for other football fans from around different teams to judge what's happening at your club. But I want to know, if you're a West Ham fan, how do you feel about this? And if you're a general football and Premier League fan, do you think getting rid of David Moyes is the right move? Let's start with Moyes. West Ham are currently sat at 9th in the Premier League, a position in which is actually probably pretty accurate for where they are in terms of their squad. So the only teams currently sitting above West Ham are Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Spurs, Newcastle, Chelsea and Manchester United. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Would everyone not expect those clubs to be above them? Given the transfer budgets they have, given the squad that they have available, I don't think it's particularly a negative for David Moyes and West Ham to currently be sitting in 9th with those teams above them. They were knocked out of the Europa League, but again, they were knocked out by Bayer Leverkusen. One of, if not the best team in the world right now. I know they're not playing in the Champions League, so you can't really say that, but they are still unbeaten. One of the biggest runs we've ever seen in world football. So quarter-final of the Europa League is not a negative when you're getting knocked out by the team that should and are most likely to go on to win the competition, and also the team that knocked Bayern Munich off their throne. Last season, West Ham picked up the Europa Conference League, the first piece of major silverware they've won in 43 years. That's right, they'd not won a major trophy since the 1980 FA Cup. So, you think to yourself, Moyes clearly hasn't done that bad a job. Let's look into why I think the decision has been made and why I can justify West Ham looking for a new manager. Currently, this season, only the teams in the relegation zone have conceded more goals than West Ham. And this isn't a case of, for example, when Leeds United were in the Premier League, they conceded a bunch of goals, but that's because they were playing attacking, dangerous, entertaining football. The main problem with West Ham and David Moyes is he doesn't play in the West Ham way. The football isn't exciting, it's very defensive and isn't particularly a style that will get you out of your seat. They've got the 5th worst goal difference in the league. Only the relegation teams, or the teams currently in the relegation zone, and Nottingham Forest currently have worse goal difference than West Ham. For a team that's sitting 9th, playing in European competitions with a pretty good squad, that's a very poor stat and shows just how much they're leaking defensively despite priding themselves under David Moyes on a more defensive style of play. And one thing which I think could come back to bite them, they have got such a heavy reliance on Jarrod Bowen this season. He has contributed, scored or assisted in 40% of West Ham's goals. Such a heavy reliance on one player. If he goes in the summer, which let's face it is very likely he's going to get picked up by a different team, they need someone with bright attacking football to bring more goals out the rest of the squad. I believe Kudus was involved in about 30% of goals as well. So it's all coming from just a few attacking players. David Moyes has been at West Ham for quite a while now, and he's seen them during this tenure finish 6th and 7th in the Premier League. This is the joint highest they have achieved in terms of league position since the inception of the Premier League. The last season they were in the first division, I believe they finished 3rd. However, Moyes has come in, won the first major piece of silverware for over 40 years, and now the decision has been made for him to lose his job. I wonder if David Moyes actually mutually agreed to do this. There's clearly a lot of tension within the fan base. Do you think that he said, all right, well, let's leave on a high, let's leave while it's positive? Because it wasn't too long ago in an interview, he pretty much said that fans should be happy with where they are now, and he's the manager that's actually brought them back to true success with that trophy win. Let's take a look at some transfers that have happened during David Moyes' time. So, the West Ham squad is currently ranked 10th on transfer market for overall club value. So, 9th in the league, again, probably about right. In the last 5 years, there's been a net spend of 275 million by West Ham. This is the 8th highest in the league. Again, another thing that points to 9th. Been around the right position for them. I want to look at some of the specific players that have been brought in that I class as big wins. Kudus, 40 million, fantastic signing, definitely worth more than that now. Ward-Prowse for 30 million, very, very smart signing and a fantastic price for a guaranteed Premier League centre midfielder who's going to be consistent throughout a season. Paqueta for 40 million, he's been linked to massive moves since joining West Ham. Souček for 15 million. Admittedly, a player that doesn't set the world alight and isn't the most thrilling player to watch, but has been a consistent part of that West Ham midfield for many seasons now. And for 15 million for a Premier League centre mid or centre defensive mid, that is a fantastic piece of business. And then last but not least, Jarrod Bowen for 20 million. A player who, in my opinion, in the summer will go for upwards of 50 million, if not upwards of 60 million. As I said, involved in 40% of West Ham's goals. What an incredible player for them. So if you told West Ham fans at the start of the Moyes tenure, you'd be able to get Kudus, Ward-Prowse, Paqueta, Souček and Bowen for a grand total of 145 million. That is unbelievable business. That's nearly the same amount as Manchester United paid for Anthony Onana. And look at the players you've got. So, some big losses as well. Not quite as big as the wins. Vlasic was 30 million, a massive flop at West Ham. Sold him for 10 million though, but that's still a 20 million pound loss. And then Benrahma for 20 million. I don't think he was a particularly bad player, but he didn't live up to the hype. I nearly added Haller in here, but he was just before the Moyes time, so I've not included him. I am also aware Rob Newman, the head of recruitment at West Ham, would have played a massive role in the signing of these players, but I'm sure David Moyes still had to give him the green light and will have been involved to some level. So let's look at the last Pellegrini lineup before David Moyes came in, and then the last David Moyes lineup. So the last Pellegrini lineup went like this. Martin in net, Cresswell, Ogbonna, Balbuena and Fredericks as a defence, Fornals, Rice, Noble and Snodgrass in midfield, Anderson as a centre-forward or centre-attacking midfielder, and Michail Antonio as a striker. See, to me, as a squad, take away Declan Rice, that is a bang average bottom half Premier League team, especially when you compare it to the last 11 that West Ham fielded. Listen to this. So, Fabianski in net, Emerson, Ogbonna, Zuma and Kufal in defence, 2 central defensive midfielders of Alvarez and Souček, a midfield attacking 3 of Paqueta, Ward-Prowse and Kudus, and Michail Antonio up top. Of course, Bowen wasn't involved in that. Imagine you had Jarrod Bowen in there as well. What a fantastic squad. What a position David Moyes and the recruitment team at West Ham have left for the new manager, Julen Lopetegui, to come in and do something with this team. Speaking of Lopetegui, what's he done? What's he all about? What can West Ham fans expect from him, and why has the decision been made to bring him in? So, he's managed at some elite level clubs around the world. Porto, the Spanish national team, Real Madrid, Sevilla and Wolves. The only worrying part about this for me is all those teams, massive clubs, big budgets, high expectations. The only piece of major silverware he's ever won was the Europa League at Sevilla. Nearly 10 years as a manager and only one piece of major silverware. Admittedly, it's not all about that. It's about the play style. And I will give him one thing. The playing style that he enforces is much more attacking than the current David Moyes outlook. And I do think that this is the main thing. And I do understand it from West Ham fans. Football isn't just about winning. Football is about falling in love with the team, falling in love with the players and the way that you play. It's such an important part of the game. I've experienced it many times. It doesn't matter if you've got a technically better or more established manager. If the football you're playing is not fun to watch, you're not going to want to watch it, are you? So, what did he do last time he was in the Premier League? Finished 13 at Wolves. He left under questionable circumstances. There were some problems at Wolves with finances, etc. But forgive me if I'm wrong, I believe that Wolves fans have been happier with the football they've played this season. I know that the squad has improved slightly, but from my understanding, Lopetegui hadn't done a particularly great job at Wolves. When he left, they were 13th, now they're 12th. So it's clearly not his elite management that was having them in 13th, because they've moved up a position since he left. Admittedly, it's only one position. They might not finish there. But for me personally, West Ham were in talks with Amorim. For me, For what West Ham fans are looking for, feels like Amorim would have been a much better fit. But from that point, he has severely apologised for even being in London and having talks with West Ham. And Liverpool were also in for him, so you would imagine, should he have been interested in moving to England, he might have picked Liverpool over West Ham. But if you're looking for that new, exciting, attacking football, I feel like Amorim would have been a better shout. And then there is one other slightly worrying factor. Not too long ago, Lopetegui was linked to the Milan job. And Milan fans were that upset about this, they started a social media trend that was called Nopetegui, #Nopetegui. So one of the biggest, most established clubs in the world did not want him as their manager. What does that say to you? I don't know. I'm 50-50 on this. I completely understand why West Ham fans want to go to the stadium, want to be excited, want their team to be playing an amazing style of football. But I do also think Moyes has done a very good job. And I want to know, please, honestly, any West Ham fans watching, any Premier League fans, in the comments, tell me what you think. I'll be reading the comments. I'll be replying to some comments because I am genuinely intrigued about this move. And I'm actually very excited to see how it goes. There's a lot of love for West Ham in the world of football at the minute. I feel like they're a little bit like a Newcastle. People love them. They've got a massive, awful, literally the worst stadium in the UK, but a massive stadium. So let's see where it goes. West Ham fans, let me know your thoughts. And if you've got this far in the video, please remember to like and subscribe. We're posting football content every single day this month, if I can keep up to it. I have so far, so keep coming back. But I really, really appreciate your time. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.